Hi everybody, this is Ravi Nallapreddy from Precision Academy. Today I am going to talk about international organizations and biodiversity. This is the second and concluding part in the international organizations working for biodiversity. So as part of this, I am going to cover these organizations, Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. So we will be talking about migratory species, a convention for that, international treaty for plant genetic resources and food and agriculture. So plant genetic resources for food and agriculture, that is the organization. International Whaling Commission, and then economics of ecosystems and biodiversity, a really interesting topic, a new concept. I am going to dwell in detail about this TEEB, Convention on Biological Diversity, Cartagena and Nagoya Protocols. These are the organizations I am going to cover today. So first one, Convention on Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. This is also called CMS or Bonn Convention. So the objectives of this organization are to conserve the terrestrial, marine and avian migratory species. So migratory species can be avian, that we know. A lot of birds come to India from cold places during the winter. So we also have marine migratory species like fish and all that. And then even there are some terrestrial migratory species. So we are going to, this organization try to conserve them. So parties to CMS work together to conserve what? Conserve migratory species, their habitats. So they are going to conserve their habitats by providing strict protection for most endangered migratory species. So which are the most endangered ones? So for them they protect the habitats, not one, there will be multiple. By concluding regional multilateral agreements for conservation and management of specific species or categories, because these are migratory species, they need protection at least 2 or 3 countries. So there is need for cooperation between all these nations. So that's what the CMS does. Cooperative research and conservation activities, even they do a lot of research on it. So how is this organization structured? It signed in 79, came into force in 83, that is the history of it, 1983. From that year they are working on it. So the agreement was signed under auspices of UNEP. So this is under the auspices of UNEP. The parties, there are 129 states as parties, so signatories, 129 states signed for it. Not all UNEP members or UN members generally become part of any of such initiatives. So 129 good countries, and India is part of it. And India convened COP13, Conference of Parties, at Gandhinagar in India. The first one was in Bonn, because even now the organization is located at Bonn. It was signed, it's called Bonn Convention, I told you. That's where it happened. Now the very recent one in 2020, so Modi was supposed to attend, but due to Corona it got converted into online session. So all the countries participated online for Gandhinagar COP13. So convention, these are the organizational details. So these are some of the birds which you are seeing on the screen. These are the migratory birds. Another organization is International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources, plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. So objectives are to conserve sustainable use of plant genetic resources. So these resources should be sustainably used. So there are so many varieties of groundnut, for example. So every mandal, every district used to have a different variety before. Now it's all one variety coming. What happens to that local variety? Same way. So there are so many plant genetic resources. So how to conserve it in a sustainable way? Fair and equitable sharing of benefits. This is another important thing. So whatever benefits we accrue from this conservation, we have to fairly share it in equitable manner. So sustainable agriculture and food security. So we need agriculture. So now we over exploit and the soil gets degraded, and then we will not have food in future. So we should have food security for future also. That is called sustainability. So what does it cover? It covers plant genetic resources for food, while its multilateral system of access and benefit sharing covers a specific list of 64 crops. 64 crops are covered in this benefit sharing agreement. It includes provision for farmers' rights. Farmers also have right. So those rights are also covered in this. And IPPC, there is another organization called IPCC. This is IPPC, International Plant Protection Convention. So what it does, what it achieves, or what are the objectives to protect world plant resources. So they try to protect the plant resources, so which are cultivated and wild plants. Both cultivated plants or wild plants, both are covered in it. And preventing the introduction and spread of plant pests. So they try to prevent introduction or spread of plant pests. So they promote the appropriate measures for their control. They provide control means this pest control. So provides mechanism to develop the international standards for phytosanitary measures, ISPM, international standards for phytosanitary measures. So phyto is green or the plant related, sanitary means so no pests or nothing, it's clean, and help countries implement ISPMs and other. So like for example, corona is there, we try to protect by having gloves, masks and clean sanitizers, something like that. So phytosanitary measures are there in agriculture. So facilitating national capacity development, national reporting and dispute settlement. So it was established in 51-52, so opened for signature and then came into force in 52. Whaling Commission, International Whaling Commission, it's established in 1942. So you can see this whale, very large one. So this organization try to regulate whaling to provide the proper conservation of whale stocks, make possible the orderly development of the whaling industry, orderly development. TEEB, this is what I told you, this is something different, you need to understand this concept. So what is the objective of TEEB? To draw attention to the global economic benefits of biodiversity. Biodiversity has some benefits. So they highlight the growing costs of biodiversity loss and ecosystem degradation. What happens? There are some benefits to biodiversity. If we lose biodiversity, there is big loss, and ecosystem degradation and biodiversity loss, what are the costs of it? What will be the cost? Like for example, Delhi has lot of air pollution problems. So it really amounts to what? So lung problems or so many allergies and so many things. So we keep these people try to highlight the cost of biodiversity loss and to draw together expertise from the fields of science, economics and policy to enable practical actions moving forward. So, science is here, economics. So, there is a multi-discipline activity and then policy making. So, government policy. So, they try to integrate these three. So, and then they try to ensure that environment costs involved in over exploitation or misuse are the benefits that are accrued. So, all this can be understood only if it is converted into monetary terms. All these days people were thinking we are trying to help animals, so it's about our moral responsibility. Now these people are saying it's not just a moral responsibility, it's a economic cost. If you degrade them, there are so many economic benefits that all that can be understood only in terms of money. So they talk in terms of money. Biodiversity in terms of money. What is this is all your wealth. This is this much it values for you. If you lose it, this much it costs. So then only people will understand we respect only money. So for those who respect only money, this helps to understand, this makes them understand in their money terms. So it was launched by Germany and European Commission in response to a proposal by G8, so +5 environmental ministers in Potsdam, Germany in 2007. So that's where the idea popped up to develop a global study on economics of biodiversity. This is really interesting topic. I just gone in detail about this, and I was fascinated by this concept. When you find time, just go into this economic part. So I like this environmental economics. So actually there is a flaw in economics, like what economics say, maximum utilization of resources. Their objective, what is the objective? To meet the demands of the people, unlimited demands. So they try to meet these unlimited demands with limited resources. The definition itself is faulty. How can unlimited something can be met by limited? So rather they should say there are limited resources, in a sustainable way whatever demands can be met, that should be met. That will be a sustainable way of looking at it. That should be the economics definition. But with technology, economics try to utilize the resources or exploit the resources in the maximum way. So if a cow is there, if you give some food and then allow its baby to have some milk, and then we also take some milk, that's good. But if you start squeezing it, all milk will be over and then you will get blood. Even then you squeeze it, what will you get? That's what we are doing for the environment. So there is a definition problem in economics. So now we are trying to put the environmental cost. So in the cost benefit analysis, that we will understand the cost of the environment and also the benefits, the opportunity cost. If you leave the environment like that, what are the benefits? All that will be taken into account. So all this was led by Pawan Sukhdev, an Indian. We are finding somebody doing innovative work, that is an Indian. That's a great thing to know. Environmental economist. So he did it from 2007 to 2011 with his team. So economics of ecosystem. So now I will take an example of forest and then coral reefs. Then you will understand what this concept is all about. What does forest do to us? So we all read in our school books what are the benefits of forest, but these people try to convert it into money terms. That is the difference. Provisioning services include food. So what forest will do? They have provisioning services, like what they provide. They provide food like roots, seeds, nuts, fruits, spices, fodder, all this forest will provide. So and then fiber, it includes wood and textiles, and medicinal and cosmetic products. All these are provisional benefits, provisioning services of forest. So, regulating services, benefits obtained from regulation of ecosystem processes like carbon sequestration, it happens with forest, climate and water regulation. So, they regulate climate, and then rains are caused by this forest. So, they cause water regulation and then protection from natural hazards. So, after deforestation, Western Ghats we are seeing landslides. So, natural hazards such as floods, avalanches, rockfall, water and air purification, disease and pest regulation, so many services forest is doing. We do not know, we are happy sleeping in our cities, but forests are working for us day and night. And then cultural services and non-material benefits. So, I told about regulatory and then provisioning services. Now, I am talking about non-material benefits like people from ecosystem through spiritual enrichment. We Indians should understand, like even Buddha went to forest. So many great people, saints, they live in forest. Even during the times of Rama, when he was in Ayodhya, we did not talk, there was no talk about any spirituality. When he goes to forest, he meets so many spiritual people. Even Valmiki was in forest. So, cognitive development, reflection and recreation, aesthetic experiences, those are the cultural services of forest. And supporting services are for production of all other ecosystems. So, it also helps other ecosystems. They differ from provisioning regulating cultural services in that their impact on people are either indirect or occurs over a long period of time. There are some other services which are really indirect. So, and also after very long future it may happen. So, those are 4 types of services. So, now coming to, I will try to quantify now in terms of money. Take an example of coral systems. As per TEEB, they are talking about $6.9 trillion. That is so huge. That is the value of output from coral reefs, seagrass, and then marine fisheries. So, these are all the benefits of 6.9 trillion they have calculated. I also feel they are a bit exaggerating, but that is required, then only people will understand. So, here let us see the breakups. The total value of coral reef based recreation itself, just tourism, coral reef based tourism, the scuba divers, and I also did once scuba diving in Goa, where we found shipwreck. So, now I want to go to coral reefs in Lakshadweep, and then Australia. There are some coral reefs, beautiful, multicolor, so beautiful coral reefs. So, I wish I go there and see once. So, that is what happens. So, there are so many people like me who wish to see the coral reefs in scuba diving, and then it has $9.6 billion. It is the $9.6 billion industry for coral reef tourism. And then one estimate shows that fisheries benefits account to 5.7 billion of the total 29.8 billion global net benefit provided by coral reefs. So, 4,000 fish species live on them, these coral reefs, and they work with governments. For example, you can see a report submitted by them, the economics of ecosystems and biodiversity. They created this, I copied the image from their report. So, they convert the benefits to the government, and they make the policy makers, decision makers understand the ecosystem economics. So they gave it to Indian government, and then they gave another report to Pondicherry government decision makers. They wanted to study about a specific ecosystem, cost, benefits, economics. So I am now going into another organization, Convention on Biological Diversity. The objectives are conservation of biological diversity, sustainable use of components, fair and equitable sharing from commercial and other utilization of genetic resources. So it covers ecosystems, species, genetic resources, all these three. The organization of CBD. So convention was opened for signature in Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro on 5th June 92, and it was established in 93. It has two supplementary agreements. So this is important, this CBD is important. For two agreements they made, Cartagena Protocol, Nagoya Protocol. These are really important protocols. So I will explain them in the next slides. So CBD, Convention for Biodiversity. How many parties are? 196 parties are there for this. So where is this location? Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and New York. These two locations, it is located in two places. So what are these two protocols? One is Cartagena Protocol. It came into effect in 2003. 172 parties, but that is 172 countries signed it. So 168 are United Nations members, and then the state of Palestine, it's not recognized country, NEU, and European Union. So total, and new Uzbekistan, and now Uzbekistan. So these are the Uzbekistan has signed very recently in 2009. So actually 172 countries are there total. So where is it located? Montreal, Quebec, Canada. So it was originally scheduled for 99 at Cartagena, Colombia. So the name of Cartagena Protocol. Though wherever it is signed, so initially scheduled for 99, so it's called as Cartagena Protocol. So biodiversity protocol seeks to protect biological diversity from potential risks posed by genetically modified organisms resulting from modern biotechnology. So genetically modified organisms, so it should be safe for human beings or for the ecosystem. So this is on biosafety. Cartagena Protocol is on biosafety. Just remember this one thing from this slide. If you want to remember one thing, only one thing, then it is for Cartagena is for biosafety. So that much you need to know. Cartagena Protocol, CBD is for biosafety. Then Nagoya Protocol, it's also known as Nagoya Protocol and Access and Benefit Sharing. If you understand this full name, then you know the purpose of this protocol. So here in the Cartagena we talked about the safety part. Here we are talking about sharing part, access and benefit sharing. Everybody should get the benefit. See, ours is a poor country, for example, India, developing country, and then there are some benefits. There are some seeds and this genetic material from some other country which will be useful to us. We should get it. So whatever scientific research is made, for example, on neem trees, they have done some, we should get that shared to us. So supplementary agreements to it happened in 92, and Convention on Biological Diversity. The objective of this protocol, fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising out of utilization of genetic resources, thereby contributing to the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity. This is the third objective of CBD. I told about three objectives of CBD. This is the third one. So for that there is a protocol. Nagoya Protocol is for access and benefit sharing, ABS. Nagoya Protocol. United Nations Convention to combat desertification. There are multiple conventions, and this is the one which finally became an agreement. So, UNCCD. The objectives are to combat desertification. So, we even desert prone areas are there, like Anantapur in Andhra Pradesh. Now there are some deserts in Rajasthan. So there are even snow deserts like Leh Ladakh, something like that. So if we get desertification, how is it related to biodiversity? Because if an area becomes a desert, so there will not be much biodiversity there. That is the definition of desertification. So it is not about whether it is hot or cold, it is about whether there is any biodiversity, or is there any, is it sustainable, any life sustainable there. So if these deserts keep expanding, entire world becomes desert, and then there will be no species, no food cycle, and no human beings. Desertification, we have to combat, we have to fight, like the way we fight with corona, we have to fight with this desertification and mitigate the effects of drought through national action programs. Though it is international, and again everything should get converted into national programs. So incorporate long term strategies for supported by international cooperation and partnership. That's what this convention is all about. So based on recommendations of Rio conference in Agenda 21, it's adopted in Paris, France. So how is this organization structured? UNCCD, they are coordinated with the secretariats of the relevant international bodies and conventions. UN framework and convention on climate change, UNFCCC, that I will tell in next session, that's about climate. So desertification has two dimensions, one is climate dimension, one is biodiversity dimension. So two organizations, one organization working on climate, UNFCCC, and then conventional biological diversity, CBD. These two together work on this. There are 197 parties. It's located at Paris, established in 94-96. And then BirdLife International. It's a global partnership of conservation organizations. So that strives to conserve birds. It's especially about the name itself, and it's a voluntary or international NGO. Global biodiversity, their habitats, conservation of birds, habitats, and working with people towards sustainability in the use of natural resources. That's what is their objective. So world's largest partnership of conservation organizations. So 120 NGOs are part of it. It's not individuals, 120 NGOs. So it's formed in 1922. It's an international NGO. Worldwide Fund. This is a really huge organization, which non-governmental organization, WWF. So we also have in India the Worldwide Fund India. So it's renamed as Worldwide Fund for Nature recently. Even then we call it as WWF. In US and some other countries they still called as a Worldwide Fund. They don't say for nature or whatever. So it's an international non-governmental organization founded in 1961. So that's when this WWF is founded. Visit their site, it's amazing. They have a Facebook page, it's amazing page, and they keep making us aware of this biodiversity, and they have huge funds. So many people support it. We also need to support it with financial support. So working in the field of wilderness preservation and reduction of human impact. So anthropological reasons, whatever are there, they try to curtail it. So world's largest conservation organization. So we may be thinking, you might be thinking it's all countries and United Nations or the Modis or like Trumps have work to preserve, but here you can see we also have some role, we also have some scope, we can also do something through organizations like WWF. Over 5 million supporters they have worldwide. So they are working in more than 100 countries. So I am also planning to become a donor, a member of this WWF. This is really amazing organization. It's supporting around 3,000 conservation and environmental projects. 3,000 projects they are supporting. So they have 654 millions in 2013, that is their budget. So I will ask you some questions. I am not going to give you answers, I can give some clues, but if you have heard my session properly, you will be able to understand, just to check how much you understood. So you can write the answers in the comment section in YouTube with reference to the initiative called Economics of Ecosystems and Biodiversity TEEB. Which of the following statements are correct? It's an initiative hosted by UNEP, IMF and World Economic Forum. Did I say this? Just recollect. It is a global initiative that focuses on drawing attention to the economic benefits of ecosystems. It presents an approach that can help decision makers recognize, demonstrate and capture the value of ecosystems and biodiversity. Which of the above are correct? 1 and 2 only, 3 only, 2 and 3 only, 1, 2 and 3. So what is the right answer? You write in the comment section. So question number 2, consider the following pairs, terms and their origin. So Annex 1 countries, Cartagena Protocol, Certified Emissions Reduction Protocol, Nagoya. So I told about Cartagena and Nagoya, what they are for. So Clean Development Mechanism, Kyoto Protocol. So sometimes you may not have all the information required to understand all the options. This is how exams are, and then if you know 2 options, like there are 2 ways of knowing, this is correct, this is correct, you know for sure, or this is wrong, this is wrong. So if you know what is wrong, then it helps you to eliminate. So here in this question you can use the elimination process to find the right answer. Question number 3, consider the following international agreements. 3 agreements I am going to talk about, and then you have to tell which of them has bearing on biodiversity. 1, the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. 2, the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. 3, the World Heritage Convention. I talked about this World Heritage Convention in the previous session. If you have heard that session, you will be able to understand. The heritage is not necessarily confined to the cultural heritage. So it's more than cultural heritage. So I don't want to reveal more on this, because if I tell that, you will know the answer. So use your knowledge, find out the answer for that. Question number 4, with the reference to an organization known as BirdLife International, which of the following statements are correct? 3 statements I am going to give. 1, it is a global partnership of conservation organizations. 2, the concept of biodiversity hotspots originated from this organization. I told about the hotspots or the location of this to some other organization. So it identifies the sites referred to as important bird and biodiversity areas. So just recollect what I told as objectives of this BirdLife International, then you will be able to answer this question. So, and I will finally conclude this session with a quote of Jacques Deville. God loved the birds and invented trees. Man loved the birds and invented cages. You understand the nature of man. If there is beauty, they try to possess. There is a flower so beautiful, they don't appreciate it in the wild, in the nature. They try to pluck it, bring it, crush it, convert it into some fragrance, or use it for puja, or do whatever. Man doesn't allow it to be in the nature. So, when God loves, that love gets converted into trees towards the birds. When man loves, what happens? This is what happens. The birds get into the cages. With this, I conclude this session. Hope you liked it. We will have one more session on climate change and international organizations. Thank you very much for joining. If you have not yet subscribed to Precision channel, so you subscribe to this Precision YouTube channel and click the bell symbol, so that you get notification when I explain the next organizations and all other useful information when I try to share. And if you want to be part of this mentorship program for civil services or group 1, so you can call 8101010140 or 60, and 85 number is my personal number. You can only send WhatsApp. So please don't call me directly, you send a WhatsApp and then I will call in my convenient time. So thank you very much. Bye bye.